In today's video, we're going to look at another mini race car, but it's one that I think is kind of interesting and really unexpected. We're going to look at the SR27 from Team Associated. So in this video, we're going to bust it out, look it over, we'll compare it to the Mini-Z, and then we're going to race it against the Mini-Z. Alright, so this is actually more of like an unzipping than an unboxing. When you get the SR27, minus a little sleeve that goes over top of this with like some art, this is what you get. There's no box. It comes in this little zip case, which is actually pretty darn cool, considering the cost of the SR27. It comes in two versions as far as completeness level, and it comes in two versions as far as body and wheelbase levels go. So we'll start here, and I'll show you guys this version, which comes with this charger here. This is just a little reedy AA, AAA charger. It charges those AA's and AAA's relatively fast, so it's pretty cool. So the transmitter here is a pretty simple guy, kind of interesting though. So it's a 4-channel transmitter. You have a channel here and a channel here. Neither of those will be used on the SR27, but we have the steering trim here. We have the steering rate here. Flip it over, we have a throttle limiting switch. You have, I think, what, 50, 75, 100, just like the Micro B did, and then you have steering reversing there. Back here's the power button. Pretty simple, very similar to the Spectrum radio that comes with the Micro B actually, except for the extra channels. I thought that was interesting. This must come along with other ready-to-run rigs from Associated, I would guess. All right, so in the bags of stuff, you get some extra body clips. You get these little plastic pieces here. These are going to be for changing your wheelbase and your width, very similar to how the Mini-Z is with that. We got our 4-pack of Reedy Power 800 milliamp rechargeable, long-lasting, high-power AAA batteries. These are actually pretty cool. I think it's neat to have RC-branded batteries. We have a lot of different pinions and different little mounts to make those pinions work. So these are for like the spacing for the motor, basically, in order to get the mesh right. Very similar to the Mini-Z again. We get a little tool bag with this bright orange 4-way wrench. I actually kind of like that thing. It's pretty cool. Just a couple Allen keys in there as well. We get 4 AA batteries that are supposed to go in the radio, and a teeny little container of black grease. I thought this was kind of interesting. So this grease here is intended to go in the differential. That'll help you kind of slow down or do whatever you want to with your differential action, and then obviously lubricate the diff. Other than all that, you get this little piece of paper here in this big bag that had everything else in it. Scan that for the digital manual. There is some pretty key information in the digital manual that you'll want to see, like how to turn the gyro off, which we'll talk about in a minute, but that's pretty important. All right, so looking at the Z first, or the 2023 Z first, here is the Lexan body. It is somewhat representative of the car that it's trying to be. It's definitely not nearly as detailed as what you would get with the Kyosho. So this is the older Z. This body looks a lot better, in my opinion. It's still not Kyosho level by any stretch of the imagination, but it does look a little bit better than the newer Z version. All right, so getting under the hood of the 98mm sized wider one here, this is what the chassis looks like when you get the body off. We have a very similar rear motor pod sort of kind of deal like we had with the Mini-Z. We have the monoshock in the middle just like the Mini-Z. Everything's back here. You have the little motor clip to get your motor out and change your gearing and do whatever you want back there. So the rear end, very, very similar to the Mini-Z. As you can see, we have a T-plate down here. I wonder if that's compatible with Mini-Z T-plates. That would be interesting. But yeah, pretty cool. The battery box is all the way at the bottom here, and it's also on the bottom on the Mini-Z, but you only have this one plate to take off versus one on each side like the Mini-Z. And yeah, that's where your batteries go right there. There is a bit of a difference here in the suspension. So the suspension on this, everything just kind of slides up and down. It stays static on the chassis, whereas on the Mini-Z, it does kind of like camber in. It has like a little bit of an A-arm thing going on there. It'll handle different than a Mini-Z just because of this. I feel like it's very smooth, feels nice. Definitely feels nicer than like a Mini-Z that has some slightly worn out kingpins would. And yeah, up here in the front, you have a little area. I guess you could probably plug a transponder or something there. And back behind this antenna, you have a little button here. That's where you're going to turn off your gyro. If we compare the two without the bodies here, we can see that there's actually a lot of difference other than the way they look. So the Datsun here is the shorter wheelbase setup. You can see it's much shorter than the Nissan over here. It is more narrow. It has more narrow rear wheels and a rear mounted motor. So I expect that this one will be very, very nimble, maybe even almost twitchy at times, but probably a lot of fun to drive. The Nissan here has the more standard, wider Mini-Z wheels in the back. It's got the longer wheelbase, it's got the mid-motor mount, it's got the wider front. So this one's going to be a little bit more stable and probably handle very similarly to a 98mm mid-motor Mini-Z. Should be a good like Goldilocks style here for racing. Whereas this one's just going to be kind of a hoot, to be honest with you guys. All right, so I have an MR-03 Mini-Z over here, and here is the team associated SR27. We're just going to kind of compare the two. They should have right about the same wheelbase, and they do. It should be the same width too. They're both the wide version. Looking out back here, we can see that they both have a clip style sort of motor securing system. They're both going to, I'm sure that the motor mounts aren't cross compatible, but it'd be kind of neat if they were. Very similar differential setup, very similar just rear end entirely actually. They both have a mono shock out back. The shocks are different. There are also a lot more mounting positions here on the Associated than there are on the Mini-Z. Flipping them over, we can see that they both use a T-plate back there, and it does look like you might be able to get a Mini-Z T-plate on here, which is definitely good for the SR27, but just a little motor pod out back, T-plate, mono shock, and there you go. The Mini-Z battery situation is different. You have these two doors here on the side versus just the one on the bottom, but all of them keep the batteries at the bottom of the chassis, so there's not really much of a difference there. If we look up front here at that front clip, it definitely looks like it would fit on our SR27, which is cool, but that is probably where the similarities in the front end. So if we look at the Mini-Z suspension here, it is a little bit different. So we have our shocks in the middle here, and we have an A-arm on top that moves up and down, as you can see. So there is a little bit of sliding action as far as like sliding on that kingpin goes, but it has an upper A-arm. And like I mentioned, the SR27, it just goes straight up and down. So the difference here is on the Mini-Z, you're going to have a little bit of a camber angle as that suspension goes, whereas on the SR27, you will not. So there is going to be a bit of a difference in handling, and yeah, we'll just have to see, because while this is cool that we have that variable camber, it's also not as smooth. So, you know, there will be differences, and I don't know which one's going to be better. All right, and for a weight comparison here, we're going to start with the Team Associated SR27, weighing in at 90 grams without the body. The Mini-Z, weighing in at 89 grams without the body. And the short wheelbase SR27, just for fun, coming in at 88 grams without the body. It also looks like, as far as bodies go, that you'll be able to use Kyosho auto-scale bodies, because we have spots here that look like they are intended to accept the clips that go on the side of those auto-scale bodies. And if we take off this front body mount here, it actually looks like we'll be able to put the front clip for a Kyosho auto-scale body on. So that's really, really cool that you'll be able to run those bodies. There's a lot available for the Kyoshos, and that'll definitely be really nice. It'll also be good for racing, where some places won't really want you to be running a Lexan body, or some classes won't want that. You will be able to put a Kyosho body on there. But that's pretty cool that we can accept some parts that are designed for the Mini-Z, because that class has been around forever. So if we can use some of the stuff that's already out there for those, then that's a huge, huge bonus for the SR27. So we have the yellow longer wheelbase SR27 here. We're just going to do a few laps around my work in progress indoor track. So definitely feels nice and smooth. We'll talk about the nice stuff first. Nice and quiet in comparison to my Mini-Zs. Definitely pushes in the turns. So what I mean by that is that I have to go pretty slow in the turns, or else it's going to go really wide. See, that's like with too much throttle. So that'll slow it down on this track in particular. Probably won't hurt it too bad on a wider track, or a track with like wider turns. All right, so now we're going to do the Datsun. We're going to take a couple laps with that one. I'm expecting it to be a little bit tighter of a turner, maybe better on this track. And yeah, as you can see, it's just a lot more at home on here. It has tons of steering, so like there's not really any issues with like just getting that 180-degree turn there. And it's actually, I mean, it's pretty confidence inspiring, this one. You want to go fast, but if you go too fast, I'm afraid I'll lose the rear end. It's got the same tires on everything, by the way, guys, so just a heads up. We're doing the same tires and gearing all the way around. All right, last up, we got my Kyosho Mini-Z. This is one that I have a lot of wheel time with, so I'm expecting to enjoy it on this track. But let's see. We'll get some laps, and then we'll go into the time trial later. All right, so yeah, just smooth, easy going. Definitely less steering than the Datsun, more steering than the 2023 Z. Smooth as butter with the R8 body on it too. Like, I've always liked this body on these. Awesome little car. I'm wondering if the heavier body is going to be a help or a hindrance. All right, so the time attack is done. Basically, what I did was a good 5 minutes of practice followed by a 5-minute like solo time attack style run with each car. The results I'm going to display on the screen right now. So as you can see, the Mini-Z came in at number 1. It was the fastest overall. It had the most laps, and it had the fastest lap period. Coming in second, we had the SR27 here, the shorter wheelbase Datsun body one. And in third, kind of no surprise, is the 2023 Nissan Z. This one just struggled to get through those turns quickly because it just wanted to turn wider. They all had the same tires, 10 Shore Kyosho radial rears and 20 Shore Kyosho slicks on the front. They were all geared the same, and I tried to rule out just about as many variables as possible. The only real difference was the body and the chassis itself. Anyway, the results, now keep in mind, this is from my home track, testing, me driving only, you know, and I do think truly that the Mini-Z did feel more solid and smooth, and it felt more consistent. But overall, all three felt really, really good. This one here, a little bit of tuning, maybe a different tire, something like that in the back, would have probably got me a little more rotation in the turns, and I probably could have done better with it. But so as far as the overall verdict on these guys go, I think that they are an awesome product. It's really, really cool to see another competitor, if you will, in the like the Mini-Z racing scene. That's not just like a Chinese clone of the Mini-Z. Like, this is obviously a different design in a lot of ways, and it's coming from a reputable brand, so there will be parts for it and all sorts of different things. I think that they handle really well, they drive really well, they're fun, they're really great. I think this will be good for somebody who wants to get into that smaller scale, like on-road racing. Now, my only reservations are basically these Lexan bodies. I feel like you're not going to be able to do like a box stock race like you would be able to with a Mini-Z, where you can take it out of the box, put some batteries and tires in there, and you're good to go. With these, there might be a little bit more to it because you have the Lexan body, which could be considered an advantage in that type of class, which is super unfortunate because of how they come. They come with the batteries, they come with the charger, they come with the controller batteries, they come with the cool little carrying case. Like, it is such a complete package. And the body just might keep you out of box stock racing at like most Mini-Z places. Sorry, I had a light go out. Yeah, so with the stock racing kind of thing, I don't know how that'll pan out. We'll have to see what tracks do with the SR27. They may race them in their own class, and that would be fine too, because it's definitely a good entry point into the scene. I think if you already have Mini-Zs and stuff like that, you might want to check one of these out. They're pretty cool. They have all the same good features and stuff like that that you would expect out of the Mini-Z and a gyro, so they're definitely pretty cool, and I think a lot of parts are going to cross over. I think it was a smart idea to do that too from Associated. So overall, yeah, I'm gonna give these a good review. I think they're great. It's a very complete package, and I really love when things are like that. Like the little case that they come in, like they didn't have to do that at all, and that's just cool that you have that. If you want to see more on these guys, let me know in the comments. I would be happy to make more videos on them and sort of like try parts and tune them and see if we can get a little bit more out of them. But overall, I'm happy with these. I think this is a good product. Anyway, you guys, if you like this video, give me a like. If you like this type of content, you should subscribe, especially now because I have a subscriber giveaway coming up. I'll announce that this weekend, so just keep your eye peeled for that. Let me know what you guys think about the SR27 in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.